My guests this episode are both London-born musicians with massive links to County Wexford. One is an international, multi-award-winning, chart-topping male solo artist. The other an accomplished guitarist and producer. To their mams, they're Michael Stafford and Adam Jordan. To the masses, they're Maverick Sabre and New Machine. Do you believe in fate, or do you just think it's a massive coincidence? Two lads very similar in terms of both being born in the UK, massive Wexford roots in your formative rearing years, and then finding each other in the UK and making music together.
Yeah, to that, yeah, I do. I think it was meant to be.
It's like a massive coincidence almost. You know what I mean? It's kind of higher power involved in putting the two of you together, being friends, musical partners.
It's probably the middleman, the connection. Obviously, was it a competition or MTV thing?
Yeah, well, I met Ben, Plan B, when I was like 15, 16. I supported him up in Dublin. And I was backstage and I was spitting, everyone was back there spitting verses. And he came out and was like listening. And I was like, do you know what? I've got this vocal competition on my MySpace. And it closes in a week or something. And he was like, oh, enter it. It's to win a day in the studio in London. I was like, oh, sick. I'm definitely going to enter it. And me being my procrastinating self, I took ages to enter. And I remember Mo K rang me. He was like, did you enter that competition? It closes tonight. And I was like, oh, all right, sweet. So I did it was like 2 instrumentals from Ben's first record. Yeah. You download them
every day and something else.
Yeah, and I think it was the title track, Who Needs Action When I Got Ours. Yeah. And entered it, won it, met Ben for the first time met Ben again that summer, had a session with him.
Plan B rigged it, by the way.
Plan B rigged it. And he said, what are you doing? I had applied for some B-Tech computer course because it was the only thing I could get into, and my mother was putting pressure on me. And he was like, look, forget that. Come over to London and, keep cracking away. And so I ended up kind of half moving in with him. He let me use his studio in West London in the evenings after he was done with it in the day. And I just met loads of people, and Adam was one of them people that I met.
Yeah. What age were you at this stage?
I was, at that stage, by the time I come over to London, I was 16, 17.
How did you end up backstage in the first place for you to be spitting verses?
Because I was supporting him.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, there was a group at the time called Rap Ireland, and they were like a group of DJs that were getting booked by, I think it was MCD for loads of the gigs, but they used to bring MCs on with them. So we did loads of shows. I supported D12 and
what was the venue, Ambassador?
Banks. No, it wasn't the Ambassador. It was Whelan's or something.
Something that's not there no more, though, no?
What? Nah, I think it was Whelan's. I thought it was Whelan's, yeah. But yeah, and then he brought me into his family and his London family, and really helped me out. And I met loads of great people through him, and got a lot of beautiful experience. And Adam was one of them people. And funny enough, Adam had actually messaged me years before on MySpace when we were really young, and he was like, "Oh yeah, that's what." You're that fella. Oh, sweet. Yeah.
Wexford.
What?
Yeah.
Because you essentially live 20 minutes apart, you might as well say.
Yeah, and growing up and I had no friends.
Loads of people knew Adam, and I'd never met him.
Yeah, so we just had this weird middle connection
where we'd never
knew
met
each other. Yeah. And I had no music friends growing up in Wexford ever. I only had my uncle and my granddad. So as soon as we met each other and I realised he's making music in a bedroom with a laptop, I was like, what, you can do this? And now I can come to your house and rinse your microphone and a lot else.
You just mentioned your granddad there. Inspirations growing up. I know your granddad was the one that gave you your guitar first, or at least taught you your first chords.
Well, I'm trying to think, because he done a load of traditional stuff and I was into metal. I was a real hard metal and rockhead. And my uncle, he was like the cool one in the family. He used to wear ripped jeans, and he was not a rebel, but he was the one that just wasn't like the rest of them, and played guitar, and he was in a few bands. And he would have given me the first electric guitar, but I still didn't know how to play it. So then my granddad drew me down 6 chords on an acoustic guitar, and then that was it from there. I just kept learning. He drew them on a piece of paper, then I banged away at them for about a week, and then from there just kept learning from ear, basically.
Mick, your dad's pretty much like a new Ross stalwart of the music scene. Victor.
Yeah, little Victor, boy.
And like, I guess that growing up, you would have been a very musical household.
I was always around. I was very blessed to have always been around live music from very young. You know, my dad's always been in bands and always been playing and always been writing, which is one of the beautiful things that really inspired me growing up, because he was just always writing, and you know, there was always new tunes he'd play to me that he'd just written, and what do you think it is? And it was kind of similar to Adam's story there about the guitar as well. He was like, I'm going to teach you 4 chords on guitar when I was about 8. He was like, that's all you need. That's all you need.
That's true though.
And you can learn the rest.
You're now as good as the Beatles.
Yeah, exactly. I was, you know, blessed to be around a lot of kind of inspirational music.
Even when we left his house today, Victor gave us his new album.
Yeah, he just recorded. My dad just recorded a new album, Working Life, and and my dad's getting better and better as the years go on, which is another inspiring thing, you know. So
we're going to come back to your dad in a while, because I know there's that whole new album talk and stuff, right? I'm going to get biblical for a second. 2 quotes from the Bible, right? Christ also said, no prophet is accepted in his hometown. That's Luke 4:16-30. And only in his hometown and in his own house is a prophet without honour. Matthew 13:54-57.
Interesting.
Is it fair to say you would both agree with that sentiment on a certain level? Because for you, Mick, like in Ross, it just wasn't happening. And whilst you had the whole Rap Ireland scene, it probably was never going to be a full-time professional level for you. Like, you had to go away to come back respected, so to speak. Even the name Maverick Sabre, I'm sure, like, raised a few eyebrows and a few jeers, like, in your late teens. When you come back, is there? I know there's a sense of achievement. Even like when I was in Ross with you earlier, there was kids bamping the horn at you and shouting, like, "Oh, Mav," you know, giving it loads and all that. Like, I know there's a massive sense of achievement there and a real fuck you to detractors from early on, but when you get people kind of doing that, does it kind of piss you off a little bit that nobody saw it from day one?
No, because that's, you know, it's not. It wasn't for anyone else to see. It was only for, like, the main thing was I saw it and I believed in it. You know what I mean? So yeah, and I don't hold none of that. Or you didn't believe then, you believe now. That doesn't go anywhere. What there is there's pure love there right now, and that's all I focus on.
It's positive, yeah.
And it's positive, you know. And you know what the beautiful thing is the more and more I've come back over the years, the more young MCs and young singers and people stop me like, I've written this song. I got stopped the other night outside the Chipper, and a young fella said, I've written this song, let me sing it to you outside.
On Instagram.
Yeah, and we met this guy. I was actually introduced to it by a friend of mine, and he's a local kid from New Ross, Scripter. Amazing MC, still young, 17, right? 17, yeah. And it's just like to see that now, and there's a couple, there's Evan Murphy, and there's a couple of people, producer, and he's like, just like loads of young kids that were not doing that when I was growing up. There was like some metal bands and stuff, but there wasn't really anyone doing soul or hip hop, or, you know what I mean? I had to go to Tremor when I met Correct Minds for the first time, or go up to Dublin where I was introduced to like Urban Intelligence and da-da-da-da. So I think it's like an inspirational thing when I come back now. It inspires me to see, you know, kind of next generation of kids that now can believe in themselves, hopefully, and go, do you know what? I can be from New Ross and do hip hop and sing R&B and do what I want to do.
I remember when you first came through, because like Let Me Go was obviously my first introduction to you, and then I Need came after it. Like, I Need tells of a very depressed young fella based in New Ross at the time. You wrote that you were just like still in school when you wrote I Need?
16, yeah.
At what stage did the Maverick Sabre moniker come about?
That was the very first bit of music I ever put out was under Maverick Sabre. It was when I was 14, 15, and I set up a MySpace page, and it was the day I had to set up the MySpace page. I was like, what am I going to call myself? My name's Michael Stafford, and I was like, my initials MS. I was like, all right, sweet, that's a good start. So I just started writing loads of words, M's, that I thought was like an interesting combination.
When you say you looked at an encyclopedia or something as well.
The thing I found so Maverick, someone who thinks outside the box, I was like, all right, sweet, that's the first name sorted. That's what I feel like I'm trying to do here. And then the meaning I found for Sabre, which I've never been able to find it again, was someone who puts on a hard in front to get through hard times. And I feel like for me mentally, I've always been in stages that I've had to do that just internally, you know. So I just, they clicked, and I never looked back.
I hope your story is as deep for New Machine.
I just like washing machines.
I got a new one that day.
No, it was a weird one. It's kind of come with a load of meanings after I came out with it. So there used to be a band called, what were they called now? Either way, they were a rock and rap band, and they had a song called Brand New Machine. And I'd always done so many different types of music that I had this thing where I was always a one-man band. I'd always record my band stuff in the studio. I'd play the guitar, play the bass, play the drums, and I was always called like a one-man band. So I wanted a name that sounded like it was a couple people. So people didn't know, when they find out it's just me, they'll be like, oh, thought it was a band sort of vibe. And one of my friends was like, don't call yourself Brand New Machine, why don't you shorten it and it'll be a bit cooler for the dubstep stuff. So he said New Machine, and I was like, wasn't really sure about it, but I was in a rush to do Your I Need remix. And the same thing, I just needed one. And then they spelt it wrong and they wrote New Machines remix, so it sounded like even more people, but it was great. But then my friend come to me one day and I was doubting the name because I started doing more soul stuff, more Motowny stuff and whatever, and I doubted it. I started to think it sounded a bit, I don't know, just a bit young or very limiting, just sounded very electronic. And he was like, nah, because when I come to you, you're like a vending machine. He's like, you're going to put your 20p in, 20p? Pound, £2,
you know.
20p.
Selling yourself a bit short, aren't you?
But he said, yeah, you put your money in and you press whatever you want and it comes out. You want Sprite comes. You want Coke comes. You want fairy cake, that'll come as well. But yeah, just kind of
different,
stuck genres. Now.
Yeah. Make this third album, 22nd of March, When I Wake Up. Long time coming.
It was a long time coming, yeah.
I remember like when Adam was home Christmas 2017, and I remember being in his ear saying, when's Mick dropping that new album? Because like obviously I follow you on Instagram, so I see like you recording and writing. And one thing that I really love on your Instagram that I see you do is the bus test.
I always do that. Yeah.
Tell me about that.
For years. I did it. Well, I did it as soon as I came to London, to be honest. Because when I'd moved back to London when I was like 17, I just found like London just every day was like it was like I'm really inspired off visuals. I write a lot to videos and music videos and films on mute while I make music. So I'm really like inspired by visuals and people, you know. So I used to just sit on the bus, sit right at the back of the bus, at the top of the back, put my headphones in and just sit for hours and listen to my songs and see if they had, you know, that same feeling I felt when they were being blared in the studio. If they feel like that looking out the window, does it take me away in the same
weird
way?
journey music.
Yeah.
See what they fit the narrative around you, the everyday kind of
and what do they make? What way does that like curb the way you intake the visuals that are going on around you? You know what I mean?
When did you start work on this?
When did I start work on this?
2, 3.
No, it wasn't. It was. No, it couldn't. It was.
When would you have started making the first? Basically, he taught me how to produce first, and he stopped producing for years. And this album was the first time he finally started getting back out and physically producing himself. So when you started making Evergreen and them early demos, that
I'd been working on it from the end of 2015.
Must have been, yeah.
And it was just because we put out Inner Standing at the end of November 2015. And after that, I kind of like, I pulled myself away from making my own music for a bit, and I just started making beats. And I started doing loads of sessions, and I'd done some writing from really early on with Georgia Smith, and then that had picked my writing side of things up. So I was in the studio 90% of the time writing music for other people. Mm-hmm. But of an evening, I was getting my producing head back on, and all the years that I'd kind of skipped out of not really producing or producing bits and pieces every now and then, I started to really get into producing every night. So I was doing sessions in the day and then like sessions at night at home. So I'd say probably 2 years.
I'm going to have to bring this up, I don't care. That thing you played me and gave me, that Fool's Love track.
Fool's Love.
That Fool's Love.
Fool's Love.
Every month. Have you recorded that song
yet?
You've
done that, like, right?
You not just give it back to him and let him do it. I'm like, leave me alone.
Yeah, because you played it to me last year and I was sitting on the sofa. It was like a random night over Christmas. And I was like, this is fucking amazing. This track is unreal. And he was like, oh yeah, Mick wrote it for us. He doesn't really want it himself. He's not going to do anything with it. So me and Aaron are going to do something with it. And like every time I speak to him, I'm like, have you done anything with Fool's?
Yeah, forget any of your new tunes, but have you done that one?
Yeah, exactly. Forget anything you've got, because you gave it to me and I emailed it to myself. So I have it in my Gmail, and I'll be driving somewhere and I'll play it and I'll put it on the headphones and I'll just go, that is everything, because it's so simple and it's so stripped back. Played it to a friend of mine. Who do you think that is? Yeah. And the first person they said to me was Prince.
Oh wow.
Swear down. They said to me, that sounds like Prince. Sounds like a Prince demo.
He is singing peculiar on it. Though.
Yeah,
And I was like, nah, man. I was like, that's Maverick Sabre. And I told him the story about how I came into possession of the track. That's one of you needs to finish
No,
that.
it does. So, do you know
He's
what? Funny
edging on to
enough,
mentioning it lately. So.
funny enough, yeah, I have. I've mentioned
When it goes to number one, I won't claim for making you fucking finish
the
it.
same thing happened.
I want points.
A friend of mine played it to his brother, and every time I see his brother, he's like, "Yeah, how's everything? How's everything?" And how about that tune? When you putting out? Put out that tune, will you? Like, so yeah, and he came over to London recently and said the same thing to me. So
It is such a track, man.
it's a banger.
But right, back to the lecture at hand. What is coming out? Like I said, When I Wake Up is out 22nd of March. Is it all you? Is there collabs? I know you have your dad on there, I believe.
I've got my dad on. My dad's the last vocal on the whole album, on a song that me and him worked on called Glory. There's a lot. Like I'd say maybe 60% of the production's completely mine on it. It's been my first time back, like actually being really, really hands-on the production side of things. I've got like a similar crew of people that I work with. You got Adam on there, producer Charlie Perry, Ed Thomas, Egg White. Don't want to forget any names now. Got Chronics singing on there. Georgia is going to be on there. And then loads of friends and family that are just involved on every level.
Yeah, in-house mix.
How did you end up with Joey Badass on the last album?
Just personal connection, to be honest. What was the first thing? I think he tweeted "I Need" lyrics, and then I hadn't heard of him before, and they came up on my feed, and I went on, and he just released the 1999 mixtape. Why did he even put that out yet?
Nah,
No, he hadn't put that out. It was just the
song with him and
Steez.
Steez, yeah.
And I heard it, and then I heard this tune that he'd done over a beat. It was like a Miles Davis sample that I loved, and I'd just done something over recently, and I kind of fell in love with what he was doing. And he was still young at the time, and so we were just chatting. And when he first came over to London, we met on stage because we had before he'd come over, he'd asked me to do a remix of My Youth that originally had Collie Buddz on it, but he wanted to do a UK version
What was that for? Summer Nights.
for Summer Nights, which was the next project. And then it had done so well, so they made it the main version. And so we met on stage, and he was about
17, he must have been
17, 18.
And about 6'7" at the time as well.
Literally,
He's a big
deeper
dude.
voice than everyone in this room. Yo, man.
And Kirk was with him, and a couple of people, and Nick, I think, was with him at that stage. And I met him on stage, and I went to New York. He was in a couple of my videos, and I was hanging out with him there. And when he came over, we were in studio and started working on my second record, and had to get him involved. And yeah, it was just the majority of people I work with, it's just friendships, to be honest. Like
They're
over
all
here,
similar families.
all similar. Outlook on what we want to do with music and the message we want to put behind it. And
You produced that Joey track, didn't you? Is that you?
Yeah.
we don't want to be. Yeah.
We went back on, Mick as well, but we went back and forth on it for ages.
Yeah.
Took us ages to even get the verse from him as well. A weird story. But he was just busy.
Excuse me.
We
Busy
can get
and young
weird.
and-
We can get weird. Come on, what's the weird
No,
story?
I wasn't even mad. It was just, he was on tour with someone. He was on tour with Disclosure, I
No,
think
he was
it
on tour with Disclosure, and I think he ended up getting kicked off the tour.
Yeah, some
Something
mishap happened. But he rang me and he was like, I think he's on tour with Disclosure, or I think he's just after being chucked off the tour. Something's happened. And I said, put him in a cab now and bring him to the studio. Like, we've been waiting a year for this verse. Let's get him in now. And luckily, he wasn't busy, and he just got him in a cab, brought him studio, came studio for 2-3 days. Took him.
Yeah, and we made loads of
Yeah.
music in there as well at the time.
Yeah.
He was vibing. He was in a studio that's actually sadly not there anymore.
Hoxton,
In
Shoreditch.
Hoxton, unbelievable studio. Just the energy in there. It was like dates back from like the 60s and
Yeah,
70s.
it just felt like Marvin Gaye wrote anything that was good in there. Like, I
it
can't
just had
explain
this
it.
classic vibe to it, and he was just on a roll in there, and he was in there every evening till like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, just whoop, 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 banging out. And that was kind of one of the 2 days,
Yeah.
2-3 days we
Loads
had
of
in
people floating through the chip. A couple other people, they all met as well. It was just good because everyone that was coming around the studio, there was just this weird energy. And like I said, everyone that we normally meet, their family are good people as well. So everyone Joey chills with is like, they're proper, everyone is as good as each other, and you love everyone, do you know what I mean? And then everyone just intertwines and just becomes weird friends. Even if we don't make music, it's just like, it's good to know good people, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's really interesting times in that, like, in terms of American hip hop, London seems to be a real centre now for people coming. Like, A$AP Rocky pretty much lives there, records there a lot of the time. Drake has got the whole thing going on with Skepta. What is it about London that attracts that vibe, I wonder, in hip hop?
I feel what's done it recently is I feel like almost London, only specifically maybe why it's more attractive now to Americans or Canadians and that side of the war. I feel like it's almost now, like when Southern hip hop suddenly became a thing, and everyone was like, "There's this new flavor of hip hop," and the traditionalists were like, "Oh no, I don't like the beats, I don't like the flows," but people kind of fell in love with it because it was fresh. And I feel like London now is offering something that, even though on paper has been done before, there's a new vibe to it, and I feel like that's what people are kind of becoming attracted to. And now London's like the real hip city. Everywhere we go, it's like, "Oh, you're from London now?" It's like the real trendy.
Another main thing you
hip
see
city.
though is even from Skepta just being the main example, I guess. And it will happen here, and I'm seeing it happen here, and that's why I want to come over here more and just have more conversations with any of the younger generation from hip hop or anything. But as soon as you stop caring and you stop worrying about blowing up in America and you stop worrying about anything else, and you realize my accent's cool, the clothes we wear is cool, even my accent's so mad anyway, but everything we wear is dope. So like, why would we care about always trying to impress some other big massive countries? Like, we've got what we've got going on here. It's like, let's not care no more. And it's going to happen here. Everyone's so thrown off, again, Irish accents. People feel a bit weird about even doing hip hop or anything urban over here, just being Irish, because it's not really a nation known for that. It's a nation known for traditional music or a bit of rock. So once people get past the social pressures, all your mates saying, "You Egypt, you think you're Eminem," and all of that, once that stops and rappers are cool, then this country's going to thrive musically as well. People just need to stop caring.
Speaking of things blowing up in Ireland and just people who've been doing it for a while, Mick, you came back recently to shoot your video for Drifting here. Paul Allright, Lethal Dialect, of course, starring as well. Yeah. Explain to me the idea and the thought process behind that video. Like, for anyone who hasn't seen it, obviously it's based in, it was Ballymun, was it?
Based in Ballymun, yeah. Well, the idea was really, I sat down and I played like 6 tunes to a young director called Hector Doctoral. And he fell in love with, like, I think maybe like 4 of them. He was like, "Yeah, I've got to shoot a video for all these." And the first one I played him was Drifting. And he'd had this rough idea of a guy's last day before he supposedly goes away. Whether it's going away because he's going to prison or going away because he's escaping something, but it was his last day. And we kind of sat down and discussed, like, yeah, let's shoot it in Ireland. And especially in Ballymun, over the years of me MCing, I've become quite close with, Paulie, and there's a great guy called Dean Scurry who used to look after.
Dean, man.
Yeah, massively. Dean gave me my first ever gig. I messaged him online. He was looking after Urban Intelligence at the time, and he was doing youth hip hop workshops in Dublin. And he was like, "Can you make it to Ballymun?" And I was like, "I'm 15, I'm still in school, so it's going to be a little while before I can come up." It was like every Wednesday evening. I was like, "Oh, it's going to be a bit difficult for me to do that." He goes, "We've actually got a gig in Tramore, in the Baldy Man or something like that, I think it was. We've got a gig in Tramore, and come down to it." And I went down and met Dean for the first time, and we've always kept a really good, close relationship. And I just felt like Ballymun was definitely the place. There's such a story there. There's so many characters that I've kind of known and fallen in love with, and friends. And Dean introduced me, and there's so much. And I wanted mainly out of this video was what we were trying to do with I Need, and what I want to do more. We're going to come back and shoot a 15-minute short film. We're going to come back and shoot a video for Glory. And I want to show a side of cinema and an image of Ireland that hasn't been seen enough, or different untold stories that haven't been seen, and give a different perspective. I've always, since I started, traveling with music, I've always played Irish music, and especially Irish hip hop, everywhere I go, to everyone, big, small, any country I've gone to, and people have fallen in love with it because they feel it. And I always feel like it hasn't been visually represented as much as it should be. So yeah, we want to try come back and shoot something beautiful, and capture a real element of Ireland, not just Ballymun, not just anywhere specific, but an Irish energy that when you watch it, you feel like you feel something.
It's representative of a kind of a culture that's there that, like you said, isn't seen all that often, particularly in like music videos. Like, we're talking about kids in Ballymun riding horses and, you know, just various other things that are very Dublin, and to people who are Irish, they're kind of like, that's what they might associate with Ballymun, but it's never really seen on screen or seen in the public eye as such.
Right, yeah. And I also wanted to give that side, and then also, you know, the whole point of the video was to get across his battles. It was his inner battles. That's what the concept of drifting was. He's drifting internally, mentally. And he's got this show of like bravado in front of his friends. When he's with his mum, it's emotion, like, I don't want to let you go. When he's with his missus, it's kind of jokey, but there's still a lot of love and care there. And when he's by himself, he's breaking down.
Destructive, yeah.
He's destructive. He's breaking down. He's afraid. He's crying, and he's in silence, and he's wandering and getting lost in the sky. And that was the kind of, it was about a young man, specifically a young man's battle with himself and with the front that he has to put onto the rest of the world, and then what he has to do when he's by himself at home. You know.
Another type of video you've been doing lately, which I'm a huge fan of the series, Colours.
Yes.
Is that in Germany? Is it based, or where?
Yeah, it's in Berlin. Yeah, just 15 minutes, like about 15 minutes from the city centre.
And I love the series, like just even the look of them, it's so simplistic. It's called Colours. If you've never seen it, it's basically like the artist singing live into a mic and just various full on just coloured backdrops. Is it all a green screen and then they put the colour in?
What they did for the first year or two, they used to paint it every time someone came in. But now it's not a green screen, it's a green room. So the dimensions are all them, that feel is real, but it's painted green, and they swap in and out. Yeah.
How did you end up doing it?
I was a massive fan of it, to be honest. I fell in love with it, and I was just like, I got addicted to watching it. For me, I was always a big fan of like shows like Jules Holland or Other Voices, where you'd watch it, you might know one act, but you're really watching it to get introduced to someone you've never seen before. Yeah.
That's what I was just about to say to you. It has that Jules Holland effect because YouTube plays them on a playlist.
Yeah,
like, this is sick.
You might not like one, you'll definitely like the next. You might not like two, you'll definitely like the next one after that. There's always something in there for everyone, I think.
And an artist you don't like might impress you.
Exactly, because it's a moment. It's like, and you know, you can't go on there. I don't think you can't go on there. It shows everything for what
exposed.
it is.
Yeah.
Completely
And they
exposed.
don't play games. Like it is what it is. And they're mad efficient. You get in there, and you know they've got everything set. It's such a sickly, swiftly run.
How many takes do they allow you?
Right, so not being egotistical or anything.
You're fine.
But
One take, Mick.
I didn't even do
we
it.
did, both of them, I've done 2 takes. And when I was in last, we were joking because they messed up on the camera and they were like, "Oh, that's 3." And I was like, nah, forget about this. This is 2, still 2.
Yeah.
And I said to him, I was like, you know, off the record, what was your line? They wouldn't tell me his name, but they said someone came in and did 52 takes. They were in there for like 5 hours.
But what's mad, I guarantee it was someone phenomenal, not someone rubbish.
No, it was obviously like an
mad,
absolute
like a prince. Like
I have a couple of people in my mind that I think it might be, but yeah.
So how did the link happen with that? Like you said, you're a massive fan.
The link happened. So I went off completely on a tangent.
No, I think it's my fault.
It's this fool eating a bloody chicken roll here. Yeah, I was a big fan. We had a tune, me, Georgia, and George the Poet Follow the Leader. And I said to my manager, I was like, mate, we need to hit up Colours. I'm a massive fan. I love it. And hit them up. And yeah, they asked us to come over. And then we just like, you know, got a really good connection with the crew at Colours. And and they asked me back on with the Chronics tune.
Way bigger now though. When you done it with Georgia, it's still building. Like some people still, even the fact that you said some people here haven't really. It's still growing, but yeah, you capped onto it quite early.
Yeah. It's a wicked show, man. They've got like a really good, strong fan base, and it is for me. It's like the same traction I remember getting on Jules Holland. Loads of people watch it that will never have heard of you before, and they go on to Colours for the same thing, to be introduced to new music. So it's just been nice that I've been able to go on it. Like, you know, massive respect, George the Poet and no Chronics, and it's just it's nice that I was able to do it with them 2 tunes.
In comparison to working on the first 2 albums. Would you say that you've put a lot more care into this, a lot more time spent, been a lot more critical of your own work? I know they say that, like, you know, you have 20 odd years or whatever to write your first album, but in terms of producing it and being happy with it, has this one been a lot more of a labour of love?
Yeah, I don't know. I think the difference with this is I care less. I don't mean that in like a way of I'm caring less about what I'm putting into the music or whatever. I'm really just. This whole album was kind of born out of me rediscovering
me
in a weird way. This for me feels like a new debut. And I don't know what other way to describe that, but it just feels like there's a new fresh hunger to how I made this record. And I don't think I've been overcritical. I think almost the opposite. I've kind of like really just honed in on what have I fallen in love here with, what makes me the most excited about what music I'm making now. And that's kind of how the album was made, you know.
Let's be frank here. Second album, fantastic musically. Like, I love your second album, and you can really see how it's, you know, a development from the first album. But it kind of did fall victim to record industry politics.
Yeah. It was an awkward time in many different aspects of my career at the time, because management wise, I'd changed. I'd gone into a company that I was under Elton John's management company, you know, Rocket, and got into it a really good time, and stuff internally was going on there, which affected my manager, who I'd signed up for, which ended up me not really having a full-time proper manager there for the 2 years I was there. And in that 2 years, by the time I'd come back to release the second album, my label, which was Mercury, had now changed and had merged with Virgin EMI. So my two A&Rs who signed me had left. The head who'd signed me had left.
They dragged a load of other people away as well.
Yeah, and they'd taken a load of the team away. So when I come back, it had gone from a small team it was like me, Chase and State as U2 and Elton or something when I was releasing, right? And there was like 4 acts max in rotation at a time. When I came back, there was a new label, new team, and like 28, 29 acts in rotation at one time.
Okay.
And now suddenly there's Taylor Swift on the label, and I'm like, all right, my stuff has always needed TLC, you know what I mean? It's not some quick pop thing. I need to, you know, sit with this and really think of good ways of it's all marketing, and, you know, really sit down and give some love to pushing the album. And I feel like it did fall by the side a tiny bit, which in turn, when I left everyone within a week. I'd come back from a tour in Australia and a tour in the UK and Ireland, at the start of 2016, and I came back and I was disappointed, you know, because I'd put 3 years of hard work.
Of course.
And in between that, I was really grafting and, you know, being on like...
the music was so good.
Yeah, and I loved it. And they were like... So for me, I was like, nah, I can't let this spirit die in me and be like, oh, I've wasted 3 years. The songs are still there. I said, you know, what do I need to do now? I need a fresh start. So when I came back after 2 tours, within a week, I'd left everyone. I'd left my management, I'd left my label, I'd left my booking agent, I'd left everyone. And I was like, I need a fresh start. And that's what I've spent the last 2 years rebuilding a team of people that were kind of always around me anyway. I just didn't see clear enough that they were really the team that I needed all along. And almost reigniting a flame in me to push back into that second record, you know what I mean? So my success for me now, my hunger moving forward is always to shine back light on that when it has its moment again, you know, which I believe in. So yeah, it was a weird period for me releasing music, but it was the greatest learning curve, because now I'm with, like, for me, the best crew of people I could be around at all, you know. So I'm, in a weird way, it's actually kind of worked out for me personally in my favor. You know,
you wouldn't have produced this
to where I'm at. And I wouldn't have made none of this.
You would have still
I wouldn't have made anything that I've been making here now. I wouldn't have done the Colours thing with George. None of that would have happened. You know what I mean?
So it basically served as inspiration and motivation.
It served as inspiration, and it served as a bit like of shedding the skin, to be honest, and shedding for me people that weren't working as hard as I was.
I've always felt that, like, if Adele had sang "Falling Again," it would have been number one. Do you know what I mean? That's the way I felt about it, because I remember hearing it at the time and then, like, just listening to the album over and over, and I kind of revisited it this past week. And when I heard it again, I was just like, man, Jesus, like, if that had been an Adele tune, it would have been like, you know, an anthem for...
But Adele on Mercury, though, because I don't think so.
Yeah, no.
On her current label with the current helping team, that's the main thing being is not Adele or her status, it's the fact that she still has the team that are willing to promote her. So if she was over at Mercury at them times, the same thing might, because he was on a level as big, not obviously not worldwide as big as them, but he was heading towards the same direction any of them monsters headed towards.
Yeah, because basically she started out as like a soulful female voice, and you were doing kind of male soul. You had something different because you had the Irish background, you know what I mean? Like, here you are, this white kid that has this Irish English kind of mixture going on and singing soul music, but singing like I know we've been told many times that people hear your voice and they assume you're black because it's so soulful, you know. And I think that's one thing I always kind of came back to. I was like, you know, the music was there, but obviously it was the politics that failed it kind of to an extent.
Yeah, of course. Like,
you know?
anyone who's even dipped their toe into the music industry can understand that in a moment, politics and anything can change, you know what I mean? So,
and nobody wants to be that example, or nobody wants to be that statistic, but it does happen, and it can even happen to you after like your huge
mate, it can
previous
happen.
success.
It happens to a lot of people, and I think the decision we as artists need to do is: do we wait? Do we sit and wait and be shelved? Because that's what they were doing. They were, oh, we'll offer you this, and you can sit and release this, and
develop again,
and develop, and maybe bring some artists in and develop. You can either sit and wait and rot your life away on the shelves of a major record label if they're not pushing you or supporting you, or you can take a leap of faith and go, do you know what? Let me bring it back to before I had any of this.
Base level.
Like what was I doing when I had none of this? I was releasing more music. I was still connecting with people, still shooting good videos, and now we've come off it and I'm doing exactly what I've always been doing, but now free. And now I don't have everyone around me understand we're all together, you know. They hear, they're with me, they're family. They're not like someone I need to go and convince to like my music. Like, nah, why would I have people working with me or around me and pushing my music that not even fans? So you're gonna go into an office and try sell a DJ my next tune when you don't even like it? That don't make any sense to me. So
Nearly happened to Glory.
Yeah. So I was just like, do you know what? Let's rebuild, and I really, you know, I sat and I watched my good friend Zubin, who's my manager now, who's been my lawyer for the last 10 years. He played me Georgia when she was like 15, 16, and played me 2 tunes. No one had heard anything. And he was like, I think I'm going to get into management. What do you think? Would you do a session with her? I was like,
And
sweet.
Wasn't one of them Blue Lights though? She
No,
had
she
one
hadn't.
of them songs.
No, it
from
was
early.
Teenage Fantasy.
Teenage Fantasy, that was it.
It's original Teenage Fantasy.
Which is even impressive that a 15-year-old would write a song
which is
like that.
crazy. And I heard this one night, like 4 o'clock in the morning. I was like, oh my God, who is this? So anyway, we did George's first session when she came down to London. And I watched him over the two years before they started putting any music out, watch what he was doing and developing. And I always used to go to him with all my, like, he's my Yoda, like. I'd go to him and ask him for advice on everything. And then when I came off everything, he was like, you know what, we should have been doing this for a long time. So he was like, should I start managing you? And we'd use the same platform, same ideas, and same team, and it's all family. All Hector's directing George's videos. He's coming back. He's directing more of mine, and it's just it's a family.
In-house, yeah.
It's family, you know.
And he's a music lawyer, so ain't nobody fucking knows about this time.
I find it really interesting that you said you're at a place now where you almost don't care and you're a lot looser with it. Whereas if I was in that position, I'd probably feel a lot of pressure. Do you know what I mean? But I guess it's just different people.
It's just a switch, though, isn't it? Really, pressure is only something that you make it out and perceive it to be.
Then you've come from the pressure of having to care when you was at major labels.
Yeah,
so that's even bigger pressure.
I came from like sitting in, Universal with 14 people sat around the table, like, well, they know what we're gonna do here now. They don't want to play this, or we're not really a fan of this, or blah, blah, blah. And we don't know what we can do. And that's holding their hands up to me, and I'm like, I'm 24, 25, and I'm like, I've just given you, for me, like, some of the best songs I've ever written, and you're saying you don't know what to do with it.
Did you doubt yourself for a minute?
What?
Did you doubt yourself? Because that's going to be my next point.
But you'd be stupid to never say that there was any doubt. Of course it is. And that, when I started to feel that was even worse, because I was like, that made my hunger even angrier, because I was like, nah, no way is anyone ever making you feel that you can doubt yourself in this. So I need to remove myself from these people. And not good. I can't have people going, oh yeah, they didn't answer that call, or they closed that door. And I need people to go, nah, they closed that door, that's all right, I'm going to kick it down. Because that's my attitude that I've always had for it, and anything I support. So I needed people around me that had that belief, and they were there around me in the form of Zubins and, people like that.
So this was the second album, like those meetings were kind of had in around.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah.
As soon as you stopped caring, that was a relief, because it's like you reaffirmed your own belief in yourself, which is the main reason you ever want to be a musician or an artist in the first place. The day you go, I'm going to do this, because you believe in you. Your mum doesn't, your dad doesn't, but you was making music in your room. You believed in yourself. Throughout them journeys, it's very, very, very easy to lose the confidence in your own ability just because of other people being involved. You know what I mean? So as soon as you've just stepped back away from it now and you're not caring, there can't be any pressure because you've realised again, I am the shit. I've got a more comfortable team around me. So it's like there's no pressure in sight, really.
Yeah.
It's all on your own terms. You're releasing when you want to release. It couldn't be perfect. It couldn't be more perfect.
No,
for any artist.
Of course, yeah. And for me, it's like, you know, there's always a big thing. I think artists feel a way about coming away from major record labels. They feel like, oh, suddenly my connections with people are going to disappear. It's like that doesn't. If you've connected with people, I've still got, you know, some of the biggest songwriters out there like Egg White, Jimmy Hogarth, who are all met through labels but connected with them, and the connection will always be there, and I'll always write with them, you know.
And they're on this record as well.
And they're on this record. I mean, yeah, that's what they've carried through. Directors all carried through. Everyone, you know what I mean. I think people get very attached sometimes, even when shit the ship's sinking, you know.
A major label is like a security blanket to them because it's something they've always wanted.
It's something with me. That's what we've always been told, and it's only been recently. The only artist I ever remember hearing about doing anything strongly independent was, if anyone remembers, a rapper called Core Mega. Do you remember Core Mega?
No.
It was around Nas, AZ, that kind of. And I remember seeing his CDs in HMV, and they were like £36. And I was like, why are these so expensive? And he had set up his own factory outside New York, and he's printing up all these CDs. He was doing it himself, and he was gigging and touring the world. And he became massive, like independently. And I was like, wow, I've never heard about anyone doing it independently.
Hustle with the $100 mixtapes.
Yeah, and
let's not ask how he managed to set up that factory where that money came from.
Yeah. But still, independent. And then now, independence like this new, beautiful thing that everyone's kind of jumping on. And it's like, right, you know what? If you've got the right team around you, the independent route is a very feasible route.
What's the writing process like for both of you? You mentioned you write a lot to like movies and stuff on mute. What about you, Adam? What are the stranger things that you find inspiration in? Like, I love your story behind Let Me Go, that not a lot of people would know.
Everyone thinks it's a love song.
And what is it? It kind of is a love song in a way.
It is a love song. It's a love song to it's like a love song to a really bad relationship, like that. You just I still love her, still think about her.
I still love
just whiskey
him.
To be honest. Whiskey was just getting me in horrendous situations. At the time when I just signed the deal, I was young, I was in London, I was going to all these parties. I didn't know what I was doing. I did know what I was doing, and it was trouble.
Yeah.
And Let Me Go was my little love song.
What kind of movies are you writing to on mute?
Lahane was a big one.
Awesome flick.
Lahane was a big
I see you're following that guy on Instagram as well. I am too. That Goldie's been plugging. They're doing the t-shirts.
T-shirts. They look great. They posted up some new t-shirts there recently.
He hasn't got an online store yet though. He needs to get them up, man, because I'm mad about it. I learned of him through Goldie. He sent him the Lahane t-shirt. Yeah. And I was like, I want that. That's sick. And then I went onto his page. Every so often when I see a post, and then I went on to see, followed by Maverick Sabre and Goldie.
Am I being stupid? Is Lahane anything like City of God? Both of them films I'm planning to watch this week.
Lahane's like a French thing.
Yeah, it's a French.
And what's City of God?
And City of God's
Brazil.
Yeah.
But any form of same sentiment or style?
Only
the film,
similarity would
just
be that
the
there's gang life
Yeah.
involved in it. You know
Fair
what I
enough.
mean? But they're both fantastic films. But for me it was mainly like a lot of music videos that have got no lip sync in it. So no performance from the artist, just like cinematography. That's what I really write a lot to. So
Your Wolves project is on a real kind of 2080s tip.
Yeah.
Maybe you're quoting that to me last year.
Yeah.
And you became obsessed.
3000 even.
yeah, like that.
Yeah.
And you became obsessed with that San Junipero
episode of Black Mirror.
Oh yeah.
I think it's just because of the time I saw it, being engulfed in trying to make this Wolf sound that we've been basically trying to create for 2 years. And I just recently saw Black Mirror anyway, so it just blew my mind, especially for me being an old school weed head conspiracist. Do you know what I mean? Like Black Mirror was just a different level, and it was just a weird, everything I hated about the 80s growing up, which is why it's surprising I'm making that Sonic now, there was just cheesy stuff at the forefront of everything. So it just looked really, I don't know, I didn't want nothing to do with it. 90s was my stuff, but yeah, 80s was just cheesy as hell. And with this Black Mirror episode, it's got this weird twists of darkness in it, where it's got like a happy concept about when you die, you go to this San Junipero place, but then once you go to the San Junipero place,
spoiler alert.
Yeah, oh yeah, but yeah, there's this like weird overtone of dark and sadness once you go there anyway, because everyone's always having a question in their head of like, do you want to live forever? And I selfishly do sometimes, but then if you did, would you drive yourself insane? And I just liked that it wasn't just some cheesy, happy 80s weird episode. And when I started putting it on mute, I think I just done it by accident, because I've always been around him when he plays visuals, but that's not really my thing. And I think we just had it on mute while I was working, and I turned around and just you was with me. Stuff just started syncing, and I was playing certain songs, and I was literally just flicking through the episode on my laptop, and I was like, bro, this is the video. Like, I can't explain it. And then that birthed where I want to go with Wolves visually, and I didn't really think I'd ever want to do anything conceptually either, but it just gave me an idea of kind of doing, not short film or anything, but episode by episode. I want the music video to be the next episode and kind of carry on the story, and just be one big concept at the end of it.
Because the Wolves thing kind of has a bit of a vaporwave kind of vibe to it. Like, vaporwave has become really, really cool now online. I'm seeing loads of like visuals of all these crazy purple outrun looking things.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, and I think, that your music really fits it. Like, that Drake cover is better than the Drake original.
Oh, thank you, man.
It's better, man. But it's sick. But something that I recommend both of you watch, right? I saw this the other night. Totally random thing. I like clothes. Spend a lot of money on clothes, whatever. Alexander McQueen, the designer. You know, the guy sadly passed away. He hanged himself. Have any of you ever...
I didn't know that.
Yeah, a couple of years back, on the eve of his mother's funeral. You should watch the documentary that's knocking about, right? Just as artists yourselves that are into things. Like, McQueen was kind of like the wild boy of British fashion at one stage. Did all these
Who loves him, ASAP or Kanye? Someone mentions him all the time, Alexander McQueen.
I'd say it's Rocky, because Rocky was the first person I ever saw wearing a pair of the big fat soul runners, which I got a pair for Christmas from my missus. Yay! Totally recommend you both watch it, right? Because he was kind of like just this young upstart rock star of fashion, and just did crazy fucking things. Like, to me, fashion shows are people walking down the catwalk, blah, 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 blah. You ever seen any of this dude's fashion shows? Any of the things he did? Madness. There was one of them where it was set up like a padded cell. So imagine like London Fashion Week, big square padded cell. It's all made, looked at. And inside at the middle, there's a box, right? And you see the models coming out, and he's got bandages on their heads and stuff. And it's not like models just walking around up and down a catwalk. There's perspex on each side. So it's like a big box, and the media are all on the outside. See the models coming up, and like, it's almost like the models are actresses. They're coming up as if they're insane, and they're clawing against the windows. You got like Kate Moss and Jodie Kidd and all these people doing this thing. But then at the very end of it, the box in the middle, the sides fall away and smash, and it's got this big fat chick with like a gas mask on and moths and everything flying around her. And it's said in the documentary, it's almost like fashion's worst nightmare. Fat women and moths, because moths eat the clothes. Do you know what I mean? But you need to see some of the fucking fashion shows, man. He did one in one of the old markets. It wasn't a fish market, somewhere in London, like late at night. You see like Liam Gallagher and Patsy Kensit, and everyone's in the crowd, and just they said that like a load of fashion students bum rushed the gates to get in and just wrecked the place, and a car went on fire because it was all like, you need to watch it, because I was actually sitting there, and as somebody like who's only ever really produced house and techno and dance music, it's actually really inspiring thing to watch, because you can just see how this guy was kind of like so locked into something, but like had such a darkness in him, and how he got it out. Do you know what I mean?
Like, art's art. It don't matter if you do techno or whatever. It's all expression.
Yeah.
From painting to whatever. That's why we all relate.
I was just sitting there watching. I was like, I'm going to be talking to the two boys over Christmas. I have to tell them to watch this, because like, even just like, if you're not massively into clothes or fashion, this is just, it's a really interesting watch of how he worked his way up from Savile Row, going to Italy. He was at Gucci. He was the head of Givenchy and everything at one stage. It's mental.
His name is deadly though for his designer.
His name is Lee McQueen. It was Lee Alexander, and they told him to use his middle name because it sounded more grand. But he was really just a kid from the East End of London. He was mad about his mum. His mum was a massive inspiration, and she sadly passed away. And he had told a friend of his, I won't spoiler alert, but he had told a friend of his, the guy who worked with him, he said, I'm going to kill myself. He said, at one of the fashion shows, there's going to be a square that comes up from the ground, and I'm just going to blow my head off in front of the media, and that'll be it. That was what he was going to do, and he didn't do that, thankfully. But his mum passed away, and then, you know, the way in the UK funerals drag on for like a week or two before they bury them and stuff. And on the eve of the mother's funeral, he hanged himself, which was really sad.
Wow, I can't believe that was his initial intention. That would have been
crazy.
Yeah, oh no, you need to watch this thing. It's like, it's dark as hell, and like his motif is really like skulls and stuff. I fucking love skulls. But you need to see this. It's actually a really cool thing.
Sweet.
Speaking of fashion, Mick, when are you bringing out the polo neckline?
Mate, that is coming. That is coming soon, and Adam's going to be the first model. That's going to be modeling the first.
I'm not going to lie, man. There's not many men can rock a polo neck regularly and make it look good, and you do. I'm not licking your arse.
Mate,
You do.
I've got about 40 different colours of polo necks. Everyone thinks like they're my own ones that I'm like trying to flog myself.
I thought you just had the same one.
Nah, I've got loads.
Variations
I've
of
got
brown
loads.
and army
It's all
green.
variations like green, cream,
Beige.
brown, black, beige,
different shades of
pastel-y
beige.
kind of colours. That's my kind of
No, it's sick.
yeah. I love a turtleneck. Mate, I tell you, if any advice, if you've ever stuck for a night out, or you're going to a fancy dinner, you're going anywhere that you feel like I need to dress up a bit tonight, but you've got nothing to wear, always have a polo neck ready. You can rock it with a tracksuit, you can rock it with a pair of jeans. Yeah, bro. I
suppose tucked in. It would be nice.
Yeah.
Make you feel
Hey.
sexy though, I can't lie.
Yeah, they do. Make me feel French for some reason. Bonjour. The real Maverick Sabre, you know what I mean?
One thing ago, we spoke as well about like your lyrics and things that like "Let Me Go" is actually about whiskey rather than like a lover or whatever. Like, it is a lover in a way.
Yeah.
Have you ever found that?
love.
But like, is there anything that along those lines that you have a song that is about something totally different compared to what people think it is? Is there any apart from "Let Me Go" that you can think of as a standout?
Do you know what? "Let Me Go" and people always on "Let Me Go" used to get the lyrics wrong as when they just were convinced they were. And I heard Katie B do a version of it on her one extra live lounge or something years ago, and she's singing it so convincingly, and then she sang these lyrics, and I was like, that's not the lyrics to the tune. What? And then I looked up the lyrics online.
Google,
like, everyone
wrong,
else was like wrong. I was like, what? Did no one read? I printed out the lyrics for it.
What was the lyric they were getting wrong? What was?
Oh, it was something they changed. It was at the end of one of the verses, and it was something like "the devil in me" or something like that. And I'd never said that, but yeah, something mental. But nah, not really. I've never really had I've never really had that.
I find you see some bands talking about it, like they say they go to America or they go to other countries, and drug references, not that you would have loads of them, but that they don't carry. There's a great line in the song, like, I'm obsessed with the 1975, I'm a 15-year-old girl, because they've got the whole 80s aesthetic thing going on. I love that, man. Even though like their fan base is like mainly young teenage girls. Some of the stuff is really dark and arty, and you're like, whoa. But there's a line that they have a song in a thing, not enough noise and too much racket. And like racket obviously being sniff, but everybody assumes it's racket. And so like it's really clever. There's not enough noise but too much racket. They're like, oh, that doesn't really make sense. Like, it's about drugs, mate. Nobody kind of gets it, you know.
Yeah, no, I've normally been fairly like straight up. I think you kind of get what you.
Except when you're singing about whiskey and everyone thinks it's your ex-girlfriend.
Funny enough, just because I said I watched the film The Guard recently. I remember they're in I think one of the escorts is after getting beaten up, and the police officer's gone to meet her for a milkshake, and then that guy comes over and he keeps going, "This song fucking freaks me out," and he's like, "Why?" "What the fuck did he chuck off the Tallahatchie Bridge?" And she's like, "I thought I was a baby," and he's like, "I thought I was a gun." Sure, it could be fucking anything. Do you know what I mean? Them songs there, you haven't got too many of them. You're fairly straight to the point with what you're writing about. That's why I think people connect with it personally, and he doesn't have idiot fans, because it's like just really, it's from him. Do you know what I'm saying? It's not no pop star written, softly coated, and even if the music's nice, it's always that it's coming from some real place from him. Do you know what I mean? So it's not really like conception, confusing people. What would you call that? What would you call that style of songwriting? Like it's metaphorical, I guess, ish, but it's not. I don't know. They're that literature, I don't know.
Yeah, something like that,
Yeah,
You've name-checked Georgia Smith quite a bit in our chat. We're going to get to this now. It must be really inspiring to see Georgia. Like you said, you've known her, first heard her when she was 15. She's risen to the point now whereby all the critics adore her. Like, you've got Will Smith talking about her on Instagram. There's rumours in the press
Halle
that
Berry was the one that got me the most excited.
Drake has been hitting her up.
She tweeted this, like, she put up this, Steuben showed me the other day, put up this Instagram, and was like, February 3rd, which is a tune we wrote a little while back. Yeah, this is so addictive, mate. I was like, what, you never told me this? I was like, forget everyone else. What, Halle Berry's been tweeting now?
Man's gonna start tweeting her the lyrics now.
yeah.
Let me write one for you,
credits
Johnny.
and that, like,
Yeah,
it
man.
was me.
Oh, well, just like, it must be so inspiring to see that, because like I said, you know, Will Smith, Halle Berry, Drake apparently hitting her up, is all over the press. She was linked with him. Like, to see somebody and take them from, you know, being 15 into the studio writing and seeing the success. You've been on tour with her as well. You've guested on a number of dates.
I've been on like the majority of tours they've done since she started.
Beginning,
yeah, we just came back from. She did a Hammerstein Ballroom in New York. I came out and did Carry Me Home, and we did Toronto as well, and that was the last date of our tour. And yeah, it's been beautiful to watch. And because we've always had music together, and we've always been writing together, we've always been close. And being around and like really like I've really seen the progression from the first gig in Manchester. Well, there was an initial first ever gig which was in Zubin's flat.
Yeah.
Which was in front of like
East London.
30 people.
Yeah, literally. 20,
30 people.
Yeah.
Then she did another gig at an open mic, and then her first solo gig was in a cafe in Manchester. It was on her first gig on her first tour. And it was upstairs in this cafe, and it was packed. There was like maybe 80 people, all packed. There was no stage. It was all on the floor, and everyone was like basically over the band. And to see that, to then be doing like 2,000 nights at Brixton Academy. 2 nights.
I was like, what?
Sorry.
She's playing for 5 years.
2 sold out nights at Brixton Academy in front of 5,000 people each night.
In a quick amount of time as well.
Yeah.
She's on a journey.
Yeah, and it's just nice to see. It's the first journey apart from my own that I've been able to witness from the start, you know.
Especially even just like her growing up as a person as well.
Yeah.
15 turning to 20. Well, is she 22 now? 21.
21 at the moment.
Yeah, just complete. Yeah.
And just to see, like you said, like, you know, the minute people started hearing the music, everyone just fell in love with it, you know. Snoop Dogg was at our show in LA and chilling with her and the band, and every night of the tour, someone new. ASAP came to the show that we did in LA, and came with ASAP Ferg and came back and chatting to all of us, and Drake came out on the Toronto show, and that was in front of like, it was end of last year, and it was in front of like 300 people, and he came out, and it's mad to see the love there, you know.
Somebody else you're really close with, your mates, and you worked with him as well, Idris Elba. How did that whole link come about?
That link came about through, well, it's a long story actually. That link came about through me and a good close friend of mine, Liam Bailey, got into an argument with each other outside
Was it Brits?
Outside the Brits.
Oh.
Got into a physical argument with each other, yeah. We've known each other for years, right? And we got into a physical argument with each other.
Hashtag whiskey.
Yeah, hashtag whiskey. Let me go.
That's what Liam was saying.
Yeah.
Let me go.
Yeah, and I've some fella, stocky little fella, jumps on me back. It was like, don't do it, boys, don't do it. And it was Stephen Graham, the actor Stephen Graham from This Is England and
Snatch
and everything, like just a legend. So I got to know him over the years, and I bumped into him at a festival. It was like V Fest or something backstage a couple of years ago, and he was like, "Oh, I want to introduce you to a friend of mine," and introduced me to Idris. And Idris was like, "Oh, I've got this project. I want to fly out to South Africa." And I thought he was bullshitting, to be honest. You hear a lot. Everyone's had a bit of a drink, and you hear loads of things backstage. Yeah, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. And I'm like, yeah. It was a lovely fella when I met him, and he'd been a fan of the music and stuff like that. So, and then a couple of weeks later, he hit me up and was like, "Yeah, let's do it."
This was the Nelson Mandela thing.
This was to come out to South Africa we went out to Johannesburg for about like a couple of weeks to do the Nelson Mandela. He just starred as Nelson Mandela in Me Mandela, so he wanted to do a soundtrack inspired by his time there. So he had us in the studio, and there was nothing done beforehand. So he had us in the studio, and he flew me, Mr. Hudson, George the poet, and a couple other people, and had loads of like South African musicians. Tandiswa, who's a fantastic singer, loads of great musicians. Local musicians, but it was supposed to be inspired by his experience of South Africa and his experience of South Africa welcoming him, and you know, him really feeling like a part of his heart was there. So he's basically sat us down for the first couple of days, and he's telling us all these stories, and he's inviting, like, sadly Nelson Mandela was very ill at the time and he was in hospital, but his grandkids were coming in regular and sitting with us and telling us stories about their granddad, and it was just for me, just interested in people and different parts of the world, and just history and everything. It was such an inspirational moment, you know. And he basically was trying to inspire all us to then make the music that was going to be Me Mandela. So yeah, he just had brought us to loads of different really interesting spots over the 2 weeks, and you know, inspired us, man, to make the album. And it was
that You Give Me Love track is serious.
Yeah,
that was a serious tune.
Thank you very much.
Somebody else you worked with, we spoke about him previously off air, K Coke. I remember we were hammering that tune on the radio, and like he had the world at his feet.
Yeah.
It was like signed by Jay-Z and Rock Nation, had some legal trouble, then got out of that and was fine. What's he at these days?
Still making music. He put out an EP at the start of the year, I think, and now he's back and he's firing out tunes. And yeah, I think it's the start of his rebirth at the moment. So yeah, I think he's just kept himself tucked away, working on stuff, and I think now he's got.
Say released a tune with some Albanian.
Yeah, he's been doing. I think he's got quite a lot of success in Eastern Europe, and I'm not sure if he's signed anything out there, but I know he's been working a lot with some big Albanian acts as well, and he's just released 2 tunes recently. And they seem to be doing really well. So yeah, he's always going to be good, man. He's very talented. He's a good-hearted brother as well. You know, I've known him and his family for a little while, and yeah, more success to him, I think.
It's a big thing in the media these days, and amongst artists as well. That kind of mental health is really kind of being brought to the forefront and stuff like that. Like, it must be so disheartening to read so reviews of something that you've put your life and soul into for like you said, the second album, 3 years.
Yeah,
you know, like, how do you deal with something like that?
The best way to deal with it is forcing self-belief. If you don't have it, as you got to believe it, you've got to, because it is basically, if the majority of us, not all of us, some people treat music as a 9 to 5 and just make money, but the majority of us, like me and Adam,
I lost my hair to this.
We yeah. Do you get what I mean? Like, we're really doing this for passion. For like, this is our lives. These aren't just. It's not just what pays the bills. It's also like what we live and breathe. You know, we wouldn't get up in the morning if music hadn't inspired us to do so. You know what I mean? So. It was very, it does get, at times it can be quite difficult, you know, especially when you're being so vulnerable. Like, basically creating music and giving out is like telling someone something really vulnerable and them going, oh yeah, stupid bastard. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh my god, you just broke
dick out, bro. It's like getting your it's like meeting someone for the first time. You just shook their hand, yeah, and they're like, all right, get your dick out then. You're like, what now? In here? I just met you. You're like, oh, go on then. It's all small and that. You take it out, you're all conscious. That's what I think it's like. That's how I feel anyway. That's what I get weird even playing people.
Yeah, it's being like very vulnerable, and it's being vulnerable of not like,
over the top.
And it's like everyone hears it. You know what I mean? So you've got to the only way of combating that, because you're always going to release music, and being vulnerable is the whole point of why we love it, because it helps us express what's going on in our heads, you know. You just have to build up a wall of self-belief, and if you don't have it, you just need to keep building it.
Yeah,
that's it.
Upcoming tour, 2 Irish dates, end of March, early April, Cypress Avenue in Cork, the Academy in Dublin. You looking forward to performing at home again?
Most definitely. I'm looking forward to coming back more as well. Like, this is just the first little small. We've got like 13
Wexford gigs,
13 dates. Yeah, and I want to come back and do more. This is like getting the band back on the road, reintroducing everything, you know, starting playing new stuff again. And this is my first band tour since the end of 2015. We've done other tours since, acoustic tours and stuff, but yeah, this is my first band tour since then, so it's just getting everything rejigged, and then yeah, we're going to be back and forth, as this is only the start of it, you know.
I think I already know your answer to this, Adam. Tour life, is it all it's cracked up to be?
Of course it is.
Think of the wild days with Plan B. I remember your stories, because there are some people that like I've met over the years who like don't like touring. And like I saw,
he doesn't. Funny enough, he doesn't like touring, but it's because he's
Not
such
me.
a no Plan B.
Oh,
He's
Plan
such
B.
an over creative. He'd just rather be filming or making music. Touring is like, it's a vehicle for him to do what he wants to do, but it's also a barricade for him to do what he wants to do, because he doesn't want to be repeating himself, doing the same songs every night. He'd rather be creating. So he don't like touring, but he's also the center of attention as well. It's different, but
because I recently saw Niall Horan from One Direction went out and did his solo thing after him, and got kind of country-esque, and he was talking about how he loves going on tour like for a year at a time, because it just feels like it's him and his mates on the road.
Well, it is
seeing
like
the
that.
world.
If you have this is the good thing. We had a good family on tour, and then even the fact that Mav the first tour I ever done with Plan B, it was just family. Like all my friends were on the, like my friends from my area were like,
Jamie was supporting.
that's it. So the two bands that were supporting were all our best friends. Like the other band, When We Are Kings, and Mav was the other support act. So it was just like, it was literally a group of 30, 40 friends just going on tour, and it was just good. Like all day, it's just positive. Like you wake up every day. I relate it to even being back to Ireland, yeah, because you go back to England, I feel like there's less crack, people are a lot more serious, a lot more hustle and bustle, and it's different. And when I come back here, I always get way more relaxed, and it's more focused on just laughing and just actually just laughing all day and just telling jokes. And when you wake up on tour, you might wake up hungover and all this stuff that's way worse when you're just at home, but you wake up and then someone walks past your tour bus bed, and next thing you're just laughing about something, and then it's just all fun and games. It's like just it's like one big lunchtime at school, just constantly going on. And then once you do, leading up to the peak, play the gig, and then once you come off, everyone's just in some weird euphoric weird vibe, and it's just like there's nothing like it in the world. There's obviously a million hard things when it comes to touring, even mainly just traveling. Everything else is sick. Our job's the sickest job in the world.
Family and stuff like that.
Yeah. You go in a little bubble. I go in a little bubble where I just start not touching my phone, not even consciously. I'm so engulfed in just what's happening that I'm like whatever, and then you come off tour and you're a bit guilty, and that's why it's a bit of it's a weird one dynamically. We're not going to get too deep, but it is a weird one dynamically. But overall, so far, I love touring.
Mick, what's it like being the star of the show and doing all that as well?
I don't know. For me, like for me, shows are like they're a release as well. They're like, it's like I've never been to therapy, but that's my therapy. That is my like real release. I feel like, you know, you can have certain shows that at moments you almost feel like you're on some like hallucinogenic drug or something like that. You know what I mean? It really is addictive and it takes you away. And it's pure. It just feels pure. You know.
How many people standing there chucking buckets loads of energy and everything in, like, it's not like, if you wanted to sound egotistical, you could say it's like even for me, I'm just a guitarist, but it's not like a God flow or nothing, but like, because I don't like the worship side of it or anything like that, but you're on stage giving what you're giving, which you've taken however long in your life to give it, and then people are taking it in, screaming and dashing it back at you. It's like, it's nearly like the fountain of youth. You feel better, you look better for a while. It's like there has to be some transaction. It's not one way.
And that's it. It's not one way. It's not like necessarily center of attention. It's like for me, it's almost like you're vocalizing how they're feeling. Do you get what I mean? Mm-hmm. I'm just a channel of everything. That's my role.
A conduit.
Do you get what I mean? So for me, it's like when you have a great audience, you have a great show.
Yeah.
You know, like the audiences, for me, I feed off that. Like I tell the audiences, more energy, I need it. Just give me some energy, hype me up. Like that's what gets me going. So yeah, I love touring, I love shows, and yeah, performing is the expressive part of it. You know.
Yeah.
It's a different landscape nowadays. Releasing long players, like it's mostly a streaming world.
Spotify.
Yeah. Do you find that in terms of what you're going to be putting out in terms of physical product, you know, there won't be as many pressed, and you don't expect to sell as many physical units as opposed to selling downloads and streams and stuff like that? Would you rather hark back to the way it used to be, or?
As long as people hear the record, I don't care if they, whatever way, if it gets into people's ears, that's, you can't really go, oh, I wish it was back to physicals, or I wish it was this. You got to move with the time.
Yeah, you're just being infatuated with that as a kid.
Yeah, you got like, it is what it is now. You know what I mean? Oh, if you have one physical sale and 100 million streams, if they come to shows, you're good anyway. Yeah. So it doesn't make a difference.
That's the physical transaction.
Do you know what I mean? And people are still coming to shows in abundance. You know what I mean? Like that has never died down in music. Like the physical people, the presence of people being at shows.
That's the only time you can tell. The views mean nothing really. You get money, but the shows is physical. I can see you. You got something from me. You're there. But streams is so many cheating forms of doing it.
But there's also the days of everyone selling really well physically on physical sales. Sorry, it's gone on a mass scale, but there's still like, you know, Rag and Bone Man. He did a hell of a lot. Like, it was a ridiculous percentage. Like 80% was physical.
Wow.
So there is still a market. There is still people who go to Tesco's and get the top 10, and you know what I mean. There is still that and buy for birthdays.
If you're marketing yourself to adult crowd, then they're not with. My mum doesn't have Spotify. My nan doesn't know what Spotify is. There's people still buying records. And
in a weird way, it's kind of come around now where everyone. Who would have thought I'm going to see 16-year-old girls in 2018 go to a Georgia Smith show and both of them come out with a vinyl.
Yeah.
That was my next question. Are you pressing at the vinyl?
Of course we are. Mate, the vinyl's already pressed.
Sweet.
That's the first thing. I was like, we did it on the first album, never did it on the second.
Where's mine?
What?
Where's mine?
Well, you don't have a copy yet. It's only the test. Only the test press is done.
It's like Graham Norton, you know, when he pulls out the vinyl version at the end of the musical guest and goes like, "Oh, this isn't out yet, and this isn't actually it." But blah blah blah.
Yeah. But vinyl for me. We never did it on my second. I'm gonna at some point go back and do it for the second.
No.
What?
Didn't you?
No, we did it for the first, and then Universal did a back to black. All the soul records that they liked over the years, and they pressed up Lonely Out of Brave again. But yeah, that was the first protocol, man. And this album for me needs to be something that's heard in that format as well. I think people will really connect with it.
So it's a CD and vinyl thing. You're not going to press any USB keys in the shape of your head or anything, no? I actually bought an album like that.
No.
Uncle, you know James Lavelle?
Yeah.
Uncle, UNKLE. The last album, The Road, they put out on a USB key and it was cut into the shape of, I have it on my phone here, you know, like the appointment, the logos, things like that.
Yeah.
One of them was the actual shape of the USB, and I'm such a little collector head.
I like things like that. Like,
it's a weird rarity kind of thing. And I never listened to the album off the USB. I listened to it on Spotify. But I just wanted the USB.
But it's to have it. It's to have it. Like Georgia, they just put out recently, I've got a copy at home, on tape.
Man, I'm the exact same. Like, I have the last Kasabian album on tape because it was the cheapest thing you could pre-order in the online store in order to get the pre-sale access to the gigs. Speaking of your two, like end of March, Cork and Dublin, will we see you back in the summer at all? Festival dates or maybe some smaller things?
Most definitely. I'm going to be back here as much as we can. We're already formulating some ideas of
you should do a little pub circuit, acoustic for just jokes.
Just like, you know, I've never played a show apart from in Enniscorthy at Strawberry Festival. I've never played a show in Wexford. So there's loads of venues up and down the country that I really want to play.
Imagine him in Sky in the Ground.
That's what I'm thinking, man. That would really, really work, man. They I've seen some bands out the back of the smoking area of the Sky. They have a roof now that's retractable and stuff like that. It would really, really work. But I remember being in Rathmines in Dublin randomly about 2 years ago and seeing you on a poster.
And we did it because I did it at the start of 2016 when I just come back from Australia. I did like a couple of weeks tour. It was just me and my guitarist. I was like, let me do just some small venues and let's just blast it out with just me and you. I hadn't done it. Like, I was like, bloody hell, what, all these years? And the last kind of acoustic run was when I was unsigned that I'd done. And so we just started doing loads of shows. We went over to Europe and did like a couple of dates in Germany and different parts of Europe, and then came back and was just doing random ones, like small little venues, me and my guitarist. And we did it in what was the venue called? It was like a ship. Like in the shape of a ship, and it was like
having a clue. I just remember seeing the poster and I was like, oh, maps, acoustic gigs, that would be sick. Right, that's it, gentlemen. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for having us.
Finish Fool's Love. Let that be the final thought. Either one of you take it. I don't know, somebody needs to do something
get
with it.
Finished because it keeps re-popping up all the time.
It's not going nowhere.
It's not going anywhere, and that's a sign that it needs to be
we
done.
didn't do it justice.
And it's one of those tracks as well that I really think the more stripped back it stays, the better.
Yeah.
There's something about that tune, man. There's something sick. And I know we're talking about it here. People haven't heard it.
Curtis as well.
You will in the future.
Big up Curtis as well, who was an influential part of that. So.
One of Mick's mates from school.
Yeah.
What does he do?
So
for a job.
Oh, for a job. He runs.
Because I want to just segue into the fact that he randomly produces.
He runs
does videos every now and then.
website for a big broadsheet in England.
Yeah. It's like mad businessy.
Yeah, but he also is like just a lovely fella to have around, and just he'll play me mad shit or just make some mad noises, and I just get inspired by it. So he was, In
fact, he's like you. He's one that will come with some random Spotify artist and be like, "Yo, listen to this lad," and you'd never heard of him, but
send you off on a tangent and inspire you.
Yeah, he's wicked, man.
Yeah.